Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole meeting on November 4th, 2024. It is 5 p.m. I am Rob Watton, the chair of the committee, and along with me as part of roll call, we have Council Member Kat Cotton and Council Member Kara Christensen present, as well as Mayor Ross and Clerk Dean and Chief Brown and Chief Lynch and Jimmy in the back. First of all, first order of business is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Christensen, second by Councilmember Cotton. Is there any discussion or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda as presented. And by the way, we are recording this through, you can join by Zoom or it's available on the city's YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure later. Next, we will open it up for public comment. Normally, we allow the floor to those that are present that like to come forward and present us with matters regarding the committee's work on public safety. Tonight, I'm not seeing anyone. Those that are online can send those questions, concerns, or comments into the city clerk or any one of us on the panel. With that, I will close public comment. And next, we move on to minutes. Is there a motion and a second on the minutes?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Christensen. Any comments or changes to the minutes as presented? Councilmember Cotton, is there anything? Okay. Hearing none, we will accept the minutes as presented. And with that, we move on to the next item. It's okay. Good evening, welcome. Next, we'll move on to the agenda item, the interlocal agreement renewal. Chief Lynch. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. We've entered into the holiday season, or as I like to call it, the jail rate increase season. And I bring another one before you from the King County Jail this time. And I want to discuss the uses of the King County Jail and what this actually means. So we are able to book misdemeanor arrests into 3 different facilities. Issaquah Jail first, Score Jail in SeaTac, and then a last resort would be into the King County Jail in Seattle. Everyone knows that that is a felony jail. However, we have a contract with them that they will accept misdemeanor arrests if nobody else will take them. And there are times when we have had to use this as our last resort. And we took a look today at the usage of the King County Jail, and in the last 12 months, the city of Snoqualmie has booked into the King County Jail twice. And that is a total of 21 days, one for 14 and one for 7. And there could be a multitude of different reasons why they're not able to go to other jails. The city of Issaquah, they have a list of frequent flyers that are no longer allowed to go to the jail. When they're there, they spread hate and discontent, and it's chaos. So that facility has a blacklist, and we're not allowed to take them there. Now, if we go to Score, and there's some kind of safety concern, or if they're full of medical beds and this person needs a medical bed, they will close to us as well for many different reasons. And then that leaves us, if it's a mandatory arrest and you have to make the booking, we have to go to King County. So in the last 12 months, it's only happened twice because the prices are quite a bit higher than our other 2 jails. So we try our best not to do that. So they have followed suit with what they've done in the last couple of years with a 5% increase for the booking fees, which as of the 2024, they were $277.99. And that's going up to $293.28. And then the daily maintenance, that's going to be the every day after the initial 24 hours after we pay that initial booking. Every day that they're in there, they get charged what is now $259.14. It's going up to $273.39. The acute psych also had a 5% increase from $450.98 to $478.34, which is well above going to SCORE jail or to Issaquah jail, where we're paying around $122 a day in Issaquah. But if they need the psych facility and it's going to be trouble for the Issaquah jail, they normally will either call us after they've already been booked and say, you got to get this person out of here, or they just won't take them initially right off the bat. The 7% jump was for the medical beds. So that went from $418.16 up to $447.43. To paint the whole entire picture, we also pulled North Bend's numbers and how many times in the last 12 months that we've used King County for North Bend inmates. And we ended up having 6 bookings in 12 months for them. But we had people in there for 38 days, 49 days, 45, total to 251 days at the exorbitant rates of King County. Those are long-term mandatory sentencings that nobody else would take. The court has a court order saying that they've been sentenced and they have a certain amount of time and they have to go somewhere. So those were, that's why it caused those bookings. So only using this twice for Snoqualmie, though, I'm pretty confident that we'll continue that low number in 12 months, only twice. Those circumstances for us don't usually come up. So this has caused us to look at some other options, though, because the prices are just getting so high and they're going up everywhere. However, some of the jails are bouncing up more than 5 or 7%. And I'm sure I'll be standing before you here in a couple of weeks with an Issaquah agenda bill as well for their jail rate increase. But we've started to look at whether we need the 5 guaranteed beds at Issaquah. Maybe we go down to 3 at Issaquah, and we've started talks with the Kirkland jail as well to see if we can get a contract with them as another layer before we go to King County. We've also been talking to Enumclaw jail, and we've reached out to the Linwood jail as well. So I'm trying to get more options for us. Once we get locked in and it's, midnight on a Saturday night, we have no other options. We have to go to King County if these other ones won't take them. And you have to remember that we've also been, over the last year and a half, have been on a mandatory booking only, which means if it's not mandatory by RCW, we're citing and releasing instead of sending you to jail. There are exceptions to that with supervisor approval. If there's a person that needs to be booked to solve a long-term problem, then we give permission for the officers to book on those. But for the most part, there's only 2 mandatory bookings in this state for misdemeanors. That's a domestic violence assault and a second DUI within 7 years. So the RCW says you shall book on those. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and clarify anything if you need.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to call on Councilmember Cotton.
Just 2 quick questions. One, the incidents you're talking about with North Bend, the much longer stays, those were also, those were mandatory misdemeanors, or were those felony bookings?
No, I believe those, there were several of those that were people that were in jail and were found guilty. And then they have a long-term, like a 30-day sentence or a 45-day sentence or something like that. And the other jails wouldn't take them for that long.
And that's something they wouldn't go to Sunnyside for that longer.
They can for males, but not for females.
Okay.
So Sunnyside won't take females. And to that point, we were just on the phone today with the Yakima jail, and they're going to send over what a contract would look like if we entered into an agreement with them. And I've got high hopes that they will take long-term confinement females. That way we can get a better rate for the months that they're being held. There's some that we're paying for 6 months at a time. Yeah.
My second question was, with these rates, I'm assuming that the daily, and maybe I shouldn't assume this, the daily rate surcharges for like the acute psych and the medical
Mhm.
beds, are those fees tacked on to the daily maintenance fee? Like
No, no.
it's
So
one or the other?
It's one or
type
the
of-
other.
Okay,
Yeah, if they move into a psych wing at the jail, then that's the daily rate that you're getting.
thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, so I have a first question about North Bend. Are they paying for their own jail services separate from what Snoqualmie is paying?
They are. They get their bills and they pay them directly.
Great. And then my other question is more in line with the documents that are in the agenda packet. So in the letter that's from the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention Center, it said that the existing jail contract will basically end on the 31st, and that the proposed new one has been approved by the county executive, but is pending approval from the King County Council. Is that still under consideration now?
It is still under consideration. I spoke to somebody at the King County Jail, and they're in hopes that they will have it passed through the King County Council within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
So this is a preemptive, we're running out of time and we're running out of meetings for me to stand in front of you before the end of the year. So I need the approval to go forward. They're confident that there's not going to be any changes to it moving through, that this is the package that the council will sign off on.
So given my previous day job, I'm not super comfortable with approving a contract that still has the 3 X's instead of the actual dollar amount in there and things like that. I don't have any other large concerns with the contract, but I would like to see it before signing off on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just so
I
we
don't
can
have
get
a-
those final figures in there.
I totally agree. I just have the word of the person I spoke to on the phone. But they're in hopes that it would be done in 2 weeks. That would give us enough time, once it's done, if there's any changes, to bring this back and do a quick presentation on the changes. And if not, then I could contact the committee and let you know that there was no changes, it stays the same, and then we can move it to council for the full approval.
Chief, just for context for those that are curious, as far as our contract with SCORE only has, I believe, 50 beds, open beds for those that do not have a contract with them.
That is true.
So at what point do you find out? At the point the arrest is being made or in transport of the individual?
We make contact with the jail prior to leaving the scene most of the time, and we'll start at Issaquah. And if they say they have room, they'll take them, then we go there. If it's going to be, like I told you, the name that has been a problem person there, and they say no, then we contact SCORE, see if they have available beds. We don't go there in hopes that they have a bed and then have to go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that in advance. Any further questions or?
I think there's public comment on this one.
Yeah, would that be appropriate? Yes. We've got 2 people that have joined us in the in person. do you have any questions or concerns about this matter that you want to raise, or we'll give you the opportunity, given the time, if you'd like to make public comment on other things that aren't on tonight's agenda. That's okay. Anything else? Or Councilmember Christensen, are you okay with us moving this forward, or do you have some concerns about doing so? And having concerns is okay. That's part of the legislative process.
I don't know that it would get through council without the fees fully in there and the approval without, or approval from King County Council either. I would be hesitant to advance it without the additional information in there. To be clear, I have zero concerns with your credibility. It's just in terms of doing my own homework, I feel like we should have the full contract before it's advanced on.
Mayor, do you have any comments from the administration side?
I think we have, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think we have at least 2 more public safety meetings, but that's it for the rest of the year. So hopefully we can get the final numbers before then so that we can pass it through the council this year.
I'm
Okay.
keeping an eye on their agendas and when it will go, so I can advise you guys by email if I know when it's gonna go and what the outcome was.
Okay, very well.
So
Okay.
logistically, for my education on this, would it be, if nothing changes and they pass it as written, they'll give us an updated contract for the mayor to sign. Would that be a notification to this body either by phone or email? And would it have to come to another presentation to vote to move it on? Or if it doesn't change, would you guys vote to move it on as is when it's done?
I think formality wise, we should bring it back here. It doesn't need to be presented other than there's no changes from what was presented tonight.
Okay.
And then it's a yay or nay sort of thing.
Perfect.
Yeah, and thank you for your due diligence in finding other alternatives to take a look at, and we'll be encouraged and very enthusiastic to look at other ways that we can help make this as cost effective as possible. And thank you for the background too, why we need to do this, why we have to book people. There's a definite need for it. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yes.
If I
Councilman.
may. And then Chief Lynch too, thank you for bringing it in advance, knowing that it does need to get approved by the end of the year. Obviously, having it come to us sooner is helpful.
Yeah.
I just, without the numbers, that's my
Of
only
course.
hesitation.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no objection from the 2 council members, I will open up public comment for those that are present. And our rules are that the issues that you bring before us are a matter of concern for public safety, be it fire, health, or police. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and where you reside, and then we'll give you 3 minutes on the floor. One other thing is that please keep the comments to the body as a whole and not as individuals. We ask of that, and we will listen intently. And if at the chair's discretion, we may refer it out to the department that it may have some impact so that we can address that as well. So with that, I open the floor again for public comment. Please step forward. Thank you much.
Hello. So I'll be honest, I'm not sure if this is the correct committee to bring this in front of because you said police, fire, and medical. My concern is about a road that is the only road that I can use from my house to get to a main road, and it is flooding. Has been for about 6 months. I have reached out to the city of Snoqualmie a number of times in the last 3 months, I believe, since September. City has sent out people twice, but the result has not been better. In fact, I would say that it's been worse. It went from sporadic areas of flooding to now one massive area of flooding. And the reason for this being is that the solution that the city has put out has been laying more gravel down and then flattening it, which is fine if you're patching a hole. But the result has been concavity in the road. So where we flatten the road, it has left higher areas on the sides, which just leaves this giant area for water to pool. Our address is, well, I don't know if we should say the address necessarily, but it's on Cedar Place Southeast. There's really only two ways to get from our house, really, I think like 6 or 7 houses in the area to get from the house to a main road. One way is our road, which is flooded, has been for at least 6 months. And the other way, I guess just people aren't maintaining the nature. There's a lot of overgrowth. It'll scratch the paint on your car if you drive that way. So I have reached out to a company called SRS Dirt Diggers. They gave me a quote earlier today for $2,700, and that would include leveling. It would include cutting to make sure that there is no more concavity and that flooding is directed to where it should be going. And I would just like to propose consideration of that quote or another solution if the council so decides. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe for the record, may we get your name as well?
Yes, my name is Matthew Young.
Matthew, thank you very much. We appreciate you bringing it here. You know, it's one of those things that, yes, it does have a certain amount to do with public safety if it's dealing with water and road conditions and all that. We'll make sure to pass that along to Public Works and have them address it. But thank you so much. That's why we invite you in, and you've come before us. So thank you very much.
Yes, and is there anything else that you guys want to know about, like the quote or
We'll,
previous communications?
no, definitely we'll have somebody follow up with you, Matthew.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, he spoke for it in. Okay, well, awesome. Thank you. With that, I'm going to reclose public comment. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. We're always excited when we have an audience in person. All right. The next thing that we're moving on to is a discussion on the 2025 legislative priorities. What we're going to be focused on is public safety, and the second one that I had added, and that's I-90 as a public safety issue matter, even though it's outside of our jurisdiction. It does have impact on our emergency services as well as East Side in response to that, and the hospital as being a potential recipient. Thank you. So with that, I want to open it up for discussion and things that you'd like to see tweaked, added, revise, or remove. I'll give you a moment to digest that. Councilmember Christensen.
So under public safety, we have police and fire personnel, and we have additional funding tools and resources to support recruitment and retention, including but not limited to updating the public sales safety tax to allow the option to implement by councilmatic authority and providing greater flexibility. I still believe that we should go ahead and include additional funding tools to support recruitment and retention. I don't know whether we want to include specifically the public sales safety tax by councilmatic authority, considering the fact that we've gone through and we've had the voters weigh in on this, which they have supported it. I think that it would be appropriate at this point to cut that and see if there's other opportunities to go ahead and help fund getting more police officers out.
Very good point. So we'll strike the part of the councilmanic sales tax increase.
I would ask that we leave the funding tools to assist small municipalities to recruit and retain, though. I think that remains an important piece of this.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Cotton, do you have some
I think on that
thoughts?
same topic, one thing, and whether or not this is the, appropriate place to kind of add that in, but to, um, be, I guess, more aware, um, as far as the retention side of things, that both fire and police, definitely the concern is always that, everybody has the potential to be just one catastrophic injury away from ending their careers. And so there's, maybe more flexibility in the police department with administrative positions and roles, certainly less so in fire department, with our, kind of small administrative staff there. So these are things I still want to be working on with a goal towards the future. Very happy about the 3 additional firefighters and, bringing, having backup and all of those types of things. But I would like to be able to see that we can, have other things to offer firefighters that may be coming to the end of careers, or, out on an injury where they won't be able to get back on the line, and, we're full on the administrative side, maybe things like the potential of bringing, the fire marshal back in the department, in the, position for fire inspections, and also the mobile integrated health, perhaps we do get funding through the Medic One EMS levy for that. And so maybe these are things that we can kind of, combine at, potentially in the future. I'm not saying right away, but in the future to, make these something more sustainable for, or people that are like, hitting their 25 years in the department, to be able to gracefully, kind of phase out, or unless a chief position happens to open up where, somebody might want to move up the ladder and open something up. But anyway, so I'm not sure that this is the time and place to kind of put that in, but I would like it to, kind of, like I said, stress a bit more heavily on the retention part of things, where that people can have other options to move forward to or into.
I think those are really good comments, and those are typically handled through HR and through L&I. L&I encourages retention of employees in administrative roles when they're coming back off of an injury. They may be off for 6 months, but L&I has this, that they kind of encourage to bring employees back sooner if there's, and the chiefs could help me out with that. They have a better idea, but I think that there's already a mechanism in place. It's just, it's more of a local decision and awareness to make those things happen.
But those are more of a, excuse me, like a short term type of thing, like you say, coming back from an L&I injury to see if you can get back, to. But I'm thinking more for maybe those situations where it's, getting off of the road for retirement, but not wanting to completely leave, or if it's, an injury that won't allow anyone to go back, and, they have many years left to give to the fire service in the city. So
The one area that I'd be a little bit cautious of, and that's, we're getting in kind of that legal realm too, of between that and the union. Part of the role of the union is to ensure that their union members are, one, kept safe in their roles, and two is that they're given, fair treatment. And that's one of those things where if we need to change the policy to make it better, that would be, appropriate, but I'm kind of struggling with how to put it into legislative oversight. I think all those things are very valid. I think the other thing too is that as we go through these, we may want to prioritize these that we have, because obviously we want to shine the light on the thing that's, most impactful. And sometimes it's not the biggest thing to tackle. Sometimes it's the smaller things that we can address easily. And if we could do it at the state or the county level where it has a huge impact, it'll be another win. So, going back to that, I guess I'm looking too towards the chiefs in their expertise in the list of public safety things, including 18, SR 18. What are the things that we need as a council to make sure that we make a clear statement on? Chief Lynch and then Chief Brown, you don't get off the hook, don't worry.
I would tell you that my number one priority is to get the law changed about juvenile attorney privileges before the police department can discuss a active crime. We're running into that now that school's back in session with these school threats, where we have evidence leading us to believe somebody has committed a crime by making the threat, but we are tied with, we can't talk to that person. So I think that's the number one thing that I would like to see addressed. Excuse me. Yeah, on that list, that's my number one priority.
So Chief, if I may, that's the juvenile access law
Mhm.
in gross Senate House Bill 1140 and having a fix to it.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think there needs to be more explanation in that bullet point that we have?
Mm.
Or is it sufficient to be broad and general?
I think that it would be nice if the decision was put back into the parents' hands. It doesn't have
Okay.
to go all the way back to the way it used to be, where we could just read somebody their juvenile Miranda warnings and we could start talking. And I think that needs to be, that still needs to be part of how we do our business, is that somebody else needs to make the decision. I just don't think it needs to be an attorney. I think if we get in contact with parents and the parent says, yes, you can talk to my son or daughter, I think that should be good enough, and the parent can be there, but it allows us to conduct our investigation.
So what you're saying is right now, you're not allowed to get parental consent.
No.
And that's what it would be is,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to defer to the attorney on the panel. Any thoughts? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
He will.
So
But
to,
I-
to
yeah.
be clear, my background is not crim law. And I, with the exception of my pro bono case, have never represented children. So I would not be the appropriate person
Okay.
to defer to
All right.
in that case.
well, you have more experience than I do, so thank you.
I think isn't one of the results of this, then you have to actually file charges before they could have the attorney present?
No, we have to call them as soon as we make contact and we suspect them of being the suspect. I decided I'd step up because this is a topic that I've been dealing with for the last month. On the table back there is a couple of warrants that I finished writing today and got approved today for victim phones. So in order for me to get into a cell phone, I cannot get the consent of the child or the parent. I have to write a warrant to get for them to give us information in order to solidify that that they are the victims of a crime. I should not have to ask for a warrant to get stuff from a victim or a witness, I should be able to get consent. But based on what the direction King County is taking, is I have to have a warrant signed by a judge in order to get permission to access that phone.
So is that a decision of the, or the discretion of the prosecuting attorney?
That's the direction that the county is taking based on the law. Because they don't want to cross a line saying, oh, we crossed that line, we didn't refer to an attorney first. And in order for them to be on the safe side for prosecution when we go to trial, they are directing us to write a warrant. So in order for me to get the information out of the two cell phones I need to get information on from the victim and a witness, I have to write a warrant and spend a good majority of a day working on that, if not longer.
Councilmember Cotton.
How does that,
So you need to speak into,
oh,
we have
sorry.
people online that can't hear you.
How does that work for, like, so a victim or a witness has to get an attorney before turning
Unless-
over their phone?
Yes, unless I go to a judge and ask for permission to search the warrant, we will take the phone as evidence, secure it in our facility, and then ask the judge for permission to get into it, because no juvenile or parent are being allowed to give consent right now. So even if they went to the attorney, the prosecutor's still gonna tell us to err on the side of caution and go for the warrant. So the law created a problem in that aspect, because we used to be able to go, even the victim can say, yeah, that's no problem. The parent says, yeah, that's no problem, signs the consent form, because the parent is typically the account holder. So now you've got it from the account holder and the person who has the expectation of privacy saying, yes, you can go in, they've signed a document. We can't do that anymore. So that is why that is one of the things that this law hindered on us. And it's playing a huge role, especially with crimes at the school or outside the school. And I won't go into detail of what this one's about, but it's been going on for a month. And this is my fifth warrant on this case. And I've got probably 2 more to do.
So for clarification, this law changed and requires now, or the interpretation is it requires a warrant in King County
Yes.
as a result.
Because the prosecutor's office is erring on the side of caution so that we don't do something to him ourselves up or them.
Is there a position by Washington State police chiefs that are also concurring with this, where we can point to and say, we agree with the Washington Police Chiefs Association?
WASPIC put out a list of their top 3 or 4, I believe. That's the number 1. And I've been in meetings where the discussions have been where they think that one above all the rest of them is the easiest thing to do, to talk about and try to push through. Last session was all about pursuits. This session, the lobbyists are going to be trying to push the reduction of that attorney requirement for juveniles. It's killing us down at the school we have a lot of cases that our school resource officer handles, and to include sexual assaults. If the suspect is a victim or as a juvenile, there is no talking to that person to get that side. So what happens is we have to rely on one side of the story. And if we feel that there's probable cause, even without talking to that person, we're going to file charges. And now that juvenile is going into the system, when if we could have just talked this out and figured out where he was coming from, or he could have offered, another side of this, then maybe they're not charged.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? That's awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Chief Brown. Make sure that we have a chance for you to speak as well. Thank you, sir.
Good evening to everyone. So as far as the legislative priorities are concerned, obviously a majority of that touches the police side of things. Definitely the retention and recruitment is a hot topic for us, both police and fire. That being up there, being a huge need, and we're addressing it. I think long term, we've got some solutions as far as alleviating some of the burnout and some of the issues that are causing some of our firefighters to leave. And in that, I don't think it's a permanent solution, but it's a good solution that is going to, bring about a lot of good changes to the fire service and to the city of Snoqualmie. So again, I think that's the number one priority for us is to recruit good people that want to come work for the city, and then to retain those people for a long time.
Is it more challenging recruiting for a small agency versus a large agency? Is there an advantage or disadvantage?
In my short time, I think that there are some pros and cons to it. I think it depends like on the hiring cycles, because every department goes through a different hiring cycle. And so the ones that, make it to us, I think we've had a really good group of candidates this last pool that we were able to find 5 firefighters from. So that's been great. I don't think it's been a shortage of good qualified candidates by any means. I think the ones that we've received thus far have been, outstanding, and they've been selected based on their merit and qualifications and the interview processes itself. So I don't think that it deters anybody from, if anything, it's what I hear more often than not during those interviews is that we are a small agency, that we are a family, that that they aren't just, for lack of better words, another number or another person, on a vehicle or, responding to calls, things of that nature. So I think if anything, it helps us in our recruitment.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We will continue to work on these. I think the one thing that I'm hearing from Chief Lynch, do we put it under the general topic of public safety, or do we say school safety? And then we've got a couple bullets underneath school safety. One is revising ESHB 1140. And the second one is the traffic calming approach if around the schools. And it seems to me, if I recollect from our previous conversation, is the emphasis has been more on urban settings, less on rural settings. But I may be reading that wrong. Okay. For an emphasis on rural safety in rural communities might be maybe a way of highlighting it, Mayor.
Rural?
Rural.
RURAL?
RURAL.
They say
Did
rural,
it sound
RULE.
rural?
Okay.
Oh, as opposed to RULE.
Yes.
Ah,
Rural. Put an R in there.
rural.
2 R's.
Okay, thank you for the phonics lesson.
The word of the day.
If you tuned in, you just got one.
My address used to be
It's a
Rural
bonus.
1, so I'm very familiar with that word.
Rural.
Rural 1.
Thank you. All right, now that I'm totally embarrassed.
You are a lovely shade of.
Yes, red. Yes, to go with rural.
Rural.
Okay.
I just want to remind committee members to send your proposed changes to Councilmember Holloway.
Ah, okay,
He'll be updating this document.
okay. Mayor, please.
It seems like one has dropped off, which in the past we've had behavioral health funding.
Behavioral health. How did
Right,
that-
so
How
our
do we lose that?
Behavioral health specialist, where we've received funding for 2 years. It'd be nice to be able to try to get that again this year. And I think there's AWC has a similar.
Yeah, you're right. I think it, in an earlier version I have before me, it's not on there either. So behavioral health, okay. All right. Comments on SR 18?
Hope they get it done. I hope we get more funding.
The only reason why it's on like the #2 project for the state was because of the fatalities that happened in 2019. We had that period of time where we lost employees, and that helped push that up, because that was the one thing that was holding us back, unfortunately. And it comes back to safety, and deferring it out is not going to be a good solution. There are a lot of priorities that we're seeing in areas where the mandates. One is in fish passageways. I don't know if you've seen the budget for WashDOT, but it's 3 billion a year going into just fish passageways, 1 billion for local roads like 202, 203, and then other, just maintenance of another 1 billion, but almost 2/3 of it is going to fish passageways, and it's going to continue for the next 3 years. Councilmember Cotton.
What about you mentioned the fatalities from 2019, but what about statistically the fatalities that we're continuing to have with the construction project itself, including this past week with an infant?
And we're reaching out to Chief Ben Lane. He's been the chief person of numbers on that. We have a CLTC meeting tomorrow morning, and re-emphasizing exactly that, because there are more recent numbers, and they're not any better, they're worse. And a lot of it happens to be, people just going from point A to point B, which is tragic. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it needs to be on there, but we have to emphasize the safety aspect to keep it at the top of the list, because the other one, the #1 project, is crossing the Columbia River on I-5, or I-5 going over to Portland.
Oh,
That is a
okay.
huge project, and I believe it's in the $5 billion range. It's huge, but it's federal money, it's state money, it's Oregon's money too. But safety wise, I think the concern has to come back to 18, because it is incredibly dangerous. And it's also hard on our economy, because it's millions of dollars lost every time that goods can't get to the port of Tacoma, and it's a vital thoroughfare. So keep those comments coming in, and we still have a couple weeks to hone things, but I'll do my revision, send it out to the rest of the committee. You look at it, do your revisions, and then we'll send it over to the Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll work on the word rural. All right. If there's nothing more to come before us, I will call for closure. Is there a
Move to
motion?
adjourn.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by Council Members Cotton and Christensen. And with that, we stand adjourned at 5:50 p.m.